All right, everybody. Good morning. Happy Sunday. What is going on? We are entering the week of the 2026 NFL Draft. Finally here. All that research, all that work we've done over the last couple of months is about to come to fruition. And I mean that on a team level, and I mean that on a fan level as well. If you've been plugged into this draft like I have been, or even if you've been plugged into this draft at a different pace, maybe, some people go more extreme than I do, then whatever your commitment is here, it's all about to come to a head later this week. So I want to go ahead and make a video talking about a pretty big domino that fell yesterday afternoon slash evening. Thought about making a video about this last night, but I figured it could wait. So let's talk about it a little bit today and talk about the ramifications. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks, more on them later. And you guys probably know by now that the New York Giants did finally trade Dexter Lawrence yesterday, pretty late in the day. They traded Dexter Lawrence, their unhappy, trade-wanting nose tackle, not to the Seattle Seahawks. If he got traded to the Seahawks, obviously I would have talked about that yesterday when it happened. He got traded to the Cincinnati Bengals. And just to briefly talk about that trade real quick, I know that it doesn't really have a big impact on us. I guess it probably makes the Giants a little bit worse for 2026. So that's positive for the Seahawks, I suppose. But it's a pretty minor consideration, all things considered. And I guess the main takeaway here is that if this was what we were competing with, we were never going to get Dexter Lawrence. And look, I understand why the Bengals did this. The Bengals are desperate. They need veteran impact players now. They need players that can push them over the edge for 2026. Because if they don't do well this year, Joe Burrow's probably going to want out. One way or the other, he's going to either ask for a trade or retire or whatever. So I understand why the Bengals feel like the pick doesn't really matter that much. They just need Dexter Lawrence. But giving up a top 10 pick, even in a weaker draft, for a veteran nose tackle who is coming off a not great year and is going to now want a monster contract, like a mega deal, I struggle to feel good about that one. Like, I get it on some level. Yes, Dexter Lawrence is going to do more to help the Bengals this year than Sonny Styles, or Caleb Downs, or whatever defensive player they're able to get at 10. But I don't think it justifies trading that pick and then having to turn around and pay him. But I get the Bengals situation. But as a Seahawks fan, the takeaway is that we were not going to compete with this. Our pick is 32. The Bengals pick is 10. We would have had to probably throw in another first round pick to match this, and maybe more. It depends on how the Giants would feel about our future first round pick. Like, what if we end up picking really, really low in the first again? Is that better than a number 10 pick in this draft? I'm not so sure. So, yeah, that was never going to happen. But beyond that, because again, the actual trade itself is not something I'm going to get too deep into. I think it's a good trade for the Giants. I think the Bengals probably overreacted a little bit, but it's understandable. But at this point, we can reasonably conclude the Seahawks are going to be keeping their high quality picks for this draft. Do you like sports? If you do, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players' projections and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. I've had a great time using Prize Picks so far. It makes this daily fantasy thing so easy and fun, and it even makes watching the games way more exciting. And with the cool social feeds feature, you can share lineups with your friends and even follow partners to tail or fade their picks. Obviously, we're in the NFL offseason right now, but we've got basketball, baseball, hockey, all kinds of other stuff, so don't be afraid to test things out in whatever sport clicks with you. You can even pick multiple sports in the same lineup and sweat everything at once. And don't forget about team picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So, Download Prize Picks, America's #1 sports app. And don't forget, code HMA, that is HMA, gives you $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. Sorry about that. So anyway, my point is that at this point, I don't think there are very many high-end players the Seahawks would consider trading for in the next few days that would take them off the draft board entirely. Like Dexter Lawrence is a player the Seahawks could have feasibly traded for and given up their first round pick for, and therefore not picked until the very back of the second round. And they would have had an insanely low amount of draft capital for the 2026 draft. And they're already pretty low, but that would have taken them basically down to the nub. And if you look around, like I found this article from a couple of months ago, the top 15 trade candidates for the 2026 offseason. You go through it. You got Brian Thomas Jr., a guy that I would have traded for at one point, but now it doesn't make any sense. Achane, that one's still kind of the lingering one. Now, the Dolphins redid his contract to where it would be kind of weird if they decided to trade him now, but not impossible. And there is another way to look at that situation. So Achane is the one who's kind of lingering here. Waddle already got traded. Crosby at this point probably not going to get traded. I mean, he kind of did, and then he got sent back, and I don't know. It feels like the Raiders are just going to hunker down with him now. As weird as this situation is, AJ Brown's probably going to get traded, but I certainly don't want him. DK Metcalf, obviously not. Kyler Murray already moved on to the Vikings. Laporta, we wouldn't trade for Laporta. Bernardo Green, that's actually kind of interesting, but the Niners are not going to trade him within the division unless they think so little of him that they think he's a net negative. Spencer Rattler, we don't need a quarterback. Minkah Fitzpatrick already went to the Jets. Tua already went to the Falcons. Tanner McKee, no. Nate Hobbs, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure Nate Hobbs is a slot only, and we don't need that. And Thibodeau's interesting, but he would not cost our first round pick. He would be a second round pick or a third round pick. And I don't know. I struggle with that one personally. I will admit that there is some appeal to it, but even if we did do it, it wouldn't cost our first round pick anyway. So we're probably talking about a maybe our second, and then the Giants would have to kick something in, or our third, and then we maybe throw in a little something else. I don't know. So that would be a lower value trade that I think is still at least on the table. And they list a couple of honorable mentions. Jordan Davis. I mean, I did talk about trading for Dexter Lawrence, who's a nose tackle, but the thing is, Dexter Lawrence is a pass rusher. Jordan Davis, not really. Tyson Bagent, I don't know why he would get traded. I like Will Levis, but we have quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson, same thing. DJ Moore already got traded. Keon Coleman, no. So nothing really on that list other than Achane and I guess Thibodeau, because I think Crosby's off the table. But even Achane, would Achane cost our first round pick? Maybe, just because it's not a good draft, but maybe not. He's got a year left on his deal. If you go to Spotrac, they have an expanded list of trade candidates, but you go through it and it's like, okay, Deron Payne, no. Dion Dawkins, no. Jesse Bates, no. Bradley Chubb already got let go. Let's see who else. Buda Baker wouldn't get traded within the division. I don't know why Odighizu is here. I'm guessing that's a relic from when he was with the Cowboys. Walker Little, no. Cesar Ruiz, I don't know, maybe. That's a little bit interesting, but I think this team has shown they are content with the offensive line they're trotting out right now. Evan Engram, no. Christian Fulton, it'd have to be really cheap, but I don't know. That feels like we can do better if we want a veteran corner. Kenny Clark, No. Alvin Kamara, God, it'd have to be super cheap. I'm not giving up anything real for him. Jerry Jeudy, no. DeCommodore Lenore, no. He's in the division. Pete Werner, no. Chuba Hubbard, okay, maybe. Is he better than a running back you can just still sign off the free agent market at this point? I'm not so sure. Lucas Van Ness, not a fan. Jordan Addison, no. Deontay Banks, that's reasonable, but that's another guy who's going to be cheap. Riley Moss, interesting, but going to be cheap. Terrion Arnold, that one's kind of fun, but again, you're not going to have to give up a first round pick for him. And then you got Mac Jones, and of course, you're not going to do that. So yeah, there's not really a lot to say here. Some of these guys are intriguing, but I don't see anybody here that's going to cost a first round pick except for maybe Achan. Maybe Achan. Other than that, I see a bunch of guys that are going to be cheaper than that. Some of them are going to be a lot cheaper, but I don't know how many of these guys the Seahawks would even be in on anyway. Like some of them definitely not, some of them one way or the other. And yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is that we can at least rest assured the Seahawks are going to pick relatively early, at least once in this draft. Maybe they don't keep the first round pick. Maybe they move back, but I don't think they're going to give up that first round pick for a player anymore. The only guy who is still theoretically available that I think would cost that first round pick that they would want is Crosby. And Crosby might not be available anymore. I don't know what's going on there. The whole thing's kind of funky, but yeah, I do think that at this point, we can at least assume that we're either going to use that first round pick or trade back a little bit and pick in the early to middle second round. Okay, so rest assured with that, be a little bit happy about that. See you guys later. Go Hawks, and everybody have a good rest of your day. More videos coming soon.